Let's dig in. The NFL loves to keep things interesting year-round, and it's no surprise that they release the schedule, trickle it out over a course of a 4-day event. Each broadcast network gets their turn: ESPN, NBC, CBS, and we get a few games at a time. But I think this is going to have big implications on the football card market, and I'm going to explain why in this episode of the QuestCast. My good friend Carter the Power Bryant is still over in London, drinking some tea, eating some crumpets, having a good time with his fiancée. But we look forward to having him back next week. But while he is out, we are not going to let him down. We've got to talk about the new releases. We're going to talk about the upcoming schedule for 2022, the games that we know about, and how this is going to impact the card market. We're also going to look at some of the top sales data from the NFLPA when it comes to merchandise and how that correlates with what we see in the football card market. The biggest risers and fallers right now in the market that we're seeing. A hobby tip of the week that I've got for you guys I think is pretty important, and a play of the week. So let's dig in. Let's go ahead and look at this. Some of the schedules that we do have are like the first Thursday night game, the Chargers at the Chiefs. Of course, this is going to have big implications, guys. If you look historically at the sales charts for football cards, there's always a big crescendo in September, just like we've seen around the draft. In September, this is a chance for all teams to get to prove themselves, right? And depending on how they come out of the gates and how they perform coming out of the gates is going to dictate what happens for their cards, and this is going to set them either up for MVP conversations or Rookie of the Year conversations or our biggest improvement from the previous year. So what do we see kind of jumping off the blocks the most is quarterbacks, right? Quarterbacks and leading their team to a win. Good performances, big highlights with those wide receivers, those running backs and tight ends. And then we look at the opportunity share that the running backs get. Does a rookie, step onto the scene? What about the wide receivers? How's that depth chart going to kind of shake out before we change our projections? So those first 3 weeks of the season are a critical hype period. It's totally a crescendo. So you look at Chargers Chiefs, there's going to be a lot of investments on either side of this football, that offensively and defensively, right? So this is going to lead to a lot of excitement. Also talking about Titans Bills, another big game, a lot of new faces on both those teams that we're going to get a look at. Also Super Bowl contending teams. Every single one of these teams so far are Super Bowl contending teams. And then you have the NFC East, which traditionally has been more of a dumpster fire division, but this year it could be even better, right? Dallas took a big step last year, made a solid playoff run, just kind of fumbled there at the end, no pun intended, but couldn't get the ref out of the way, right? But you look at the Eagles-Vikings. Everybody wants to see that A.J. Brown in the Eagles uniform. What's Jalen Hurts going to be like with A.J. Brown? And the people are going to be putting bets on that. And so when people are done putting in their prop bets, when they're done setting their fantasy rosters, when they're done betting on the money line and the spread and the over-under, then they're going to parlay that with football card purchases. And they may go straight to football card purchases. If you're here on the Quest and you're like me or any of the other guys in our community, then that's what you're doing, right? So this schedule being trickled out, no surprise. We're seeing the different broadcast networks take their turn, but this is absolutely going to have an effect on these prices. And I think first and foremost, you want to target players in these games because these are going to be massively hyped events. Also, there's going to be a ton of eyeballs. Think about the people in the country that are going to be watching that first Thursday night game, that first Monday night game, that first Sunday night game. Those are nationally televised events. Everybody in the country is watching those, and therefore you have more chances to get people hyped, to get people excited. So you're going to see your best sales kind of leading into that game, and then based on performance, whoever is the best performers from that game are then going to have an increased volume and demand afterwards. Now let's look at the top 15 players in merchandise sales via the NFLPA. I think this correlates very well over to our hype index that we've created here. Tom Brady leads the way. No surprise. He's the GOAT, right? He decided to unretire. He's in the playoff consideration, Super Bowl run every single year. Everything that he's done on the field, no surprise there. Patrick Mahomes. He's one of the hobby darlings. For an ultra-modern player, he's got the most expensive rookie cards out there. We're talking base prisms for around $1,000 raw, $7,500 in a PSA 10 format. And then Josh Allen, right? After what Josh Allen proved himself in 2020, 2021, Josh Allen's cards are right there. Joe Burrow was in the Super Bowl last year. Mac Jones broke out like crazy under the Bill Belichick system with the Patriots. They were winning some games. They beat the Bills early in the season. He may have only thrown for like 15 yards in that game, but it didn't matter. The Patriots were winning. He was a rookie. He had that game manager, non-athletic body style, very similar to Tom Brady. So big fan base. New England has one of the highest amount of Facebook page likes in the industry, and that translates well over to demand for those players' cards. And so Mac Jones is up there. Mac Jones up. Plus he comes from Alabama, right? Dak Prescott. See, Dak Prescott's an interesting one because he's on the Dallas Cowboys. Huge market, fan base, big contract. He's obviously secure as a Dallas Cowboy. Also broke out, but he doesn't have a ton of draft capital. Comes from a smaller college in Mississippi, and his card prices are very much down right now. They're on their way back up, but the chart overall is down right now for Dak. So this is an interesting to be here on the top 6 of the NFLPA merchandise sales, and this tells you that Dak is absolutely a buy when it comes to his rookie card values. If he's comping out lower than Derrick Henry still, then he's absolutely a buy. Derrick Henry didn't even make this top 15 list. George Kittle, I've always wanted to get one of his rookie cards, but they're so rare because he went undrafted that they're very hard to get a hold of. You're really looking for a rookie ticket auto or a Phoenix, and those are really expensive. So Justin Fields, second-year player, huge market in Chicago, ton of college pedigree from Ohio State. A lot of hype for Justin Fields, even though Chicago had arguably one of the worst drafts. One of the worst drafts, are not really building around Fields. They're trying to build in the trenches, get that defense. I get it, but Fields is, as of right now, going to definitely be struggling in the second year, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, guys. He's a second-year player coming out of a big college, got a lot of hype for his athletic ability. Got a good deep ball. We'll see what he can do. He's got to have some time in the backfield. Of course, Rodgers is on there. We know that he's a Hall of Famer. Justin Herbert is on there, where he's arguably, now from what I've seen on eBay in the past couple days, Justin Herbert is getting more volume and more sales than Joe Burrow. Like, if I ever come over here and look at this web app built by David from our patreon.com/footballcards Discord server, really interesting web app. He's pulling PSA, BGS, SGC, CSG. You can always get hung up on those 3-letter acronyms, right? But he's pulling in the graded card sales data from eBay, separating between auction and buy it now. Looking at a 7-day period, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are now leading the way once again over Jalen Hurts. But Justin Herbert is, I think, got a little bit more hype. I just actually digging into eBay sold data. I've seen that Justin Herbert's cards are going for a little bit more than Joe Burrow's. I find it very interesting, but I think there is a bigger market in LA for the Chargers. I think their defense has got a lot of hype, and people understand, a lot of NFL fans understand the power of a really good defense. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Chargers and Justin Herbert and how the Bengals and Joe Burrow come out of the gates, because the Bengals have also strengthened their defense and dramatically improved their offensive line to give Joe Burrow more time. And I would argue that the Bengals have better skill position players than the Chargers do. It's going to be very close. A lot of people, you could probably argue that until you're blue in the face, right? Who's better between the wide receiver trio on the Chargers and that of the Bengals? Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, right? Now you add in Hayden Hurst. You got Joe Mixon in the backfield between then Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams and Josh Palmer. And you look at, that core group of skill position players. I know it's very close, right? Very close. They're pretty much neck and neck, but obviously Joe Burrow with an extra 51 buy it now sales in the last 7 days, an extra 41 auction sales in the last 7 days. This is pretty interesting, and you can see how Jalen Hurts, who was leading the pack ahead of those guys last week after the draft, he's kind of cooled off, and that's what we see, man. the hype that builds up from news alone or speculation alone does not last nearly as long as hype from actual performance, from good MVP caliber performance and a winning team. So guys like Cooper Kupp is still on our top list, even though that his product is from 2017 and his prices got extremely high during the Super Bowl. He still had 17 buy it now sales in the last 7 days, which is pretty impressive. That's still a 70% growth over the previous week, whereas guys like Jalen Hurts is going down. If we were to find Marquise Brown on here, he went down 45% from the previous 7 days. That's because hype from news alone does not hold very long in the hobby. It's short-lived, right? The hobby has very much evolved to being more of a production-driven and power ranking-driven and social media presence, like what the presence is in the limelight driven of a market. And so once that news and that speculation dies down, then we're turn our focus back to the biggest producers, the biggest performers, and that's what you see happen with the market, and that's what we're able to discern out of this data right here. So I find it very interesting to look at, those NFLPA sales and kind of how that correlates over. You look at then Lamar Jackson, who incredibly expensive in 2020 and at the beginning of 2021. However, to disappoint, underperform, values just kept going down. But it's a big market in the Baltimore Ravens, and if Lamar can get anywhere back to that 2019 form, it's going to be incredible, and it's going to be a big boom to his rookie cards because he's still going for way lower than that of Josh Allen. For a while there, Lamar Jackson was going for lower than Baker Mayfield until Baker had the season he did in 2021. Now he's on the outs with everybody. And that's a whole nother topic, so I digress. But you look at TJ Watt is on this, and TJ Watt, coincidentally, is one of our biggest movers. Like if we were to actually just sort by percentage of growth here, you see TJ Watt and JJ Watt are here at the top of growth in the last 7 days in terms of buy it now sold volume, right? Only one auction in the last 7 days for TJ Watt, but 9 buy it now solds. And that's because we're in this off period, this off-season time period when people are given the chance to reflect on their favorite players and teams, and from a totality perspective. Like you can see Donovan McNabb on here. You can see Michael Vick on here with some sales making this chart. And this has traditionally been a good time for, seeing some hype for vintage cards and vintage players because of just the time period we're in, right? We don't have any actual performance going on, and a lot of people will deviate from investing in these guys that are ultra modern that have got a ton of hype because the deals are harder and harder to find, guys. Like I can tell you right now, you could go through your top 100 skill position players. It's really hard to find good deals on them. Really hard. Like everything is pretty much going into that next tier, pricing tier, where it's like, it's fair, but it's going to be a lot harder to make good money on those cards, buying in at those levels. And so we're going to talk, of course, about the new release schedule. Got to make Carter proud and talk about the new release schedule because it has shifted. Once again, guys, it has shifted. Panini Prism football hobby boxes that are selling for $1,700 on pre-sale. These are scheduled to release on June 3rd, 2022. That's 12 cards per pack and 12 packs per box. 2 autographs, 10 numbered prisms, 4 silver prisms, 5 inserts, and 24 rookies per box on average. June 3rd, right? And we talked about last week how on June 3rd as well, they were stacking that was Select and Optic. Well, those have been moved, so stay tuned. We're going to get to that here in just a second. But on June 10th, we've got Obsidian football hobby box coming out, and we like the design of Obsidian. I think that Obsidian definitely has its fans. I'm a fan of Obsidian. And, you know, there's a common denominator in the investment side of the hobby that I pointed out in a recent video. So it's definitely important for you guys to check out. But that is, you know, those autographs, those designs, those serial numbers. And ultimately, what it comes down to is scarcity and understanding what someone will pay for a card numbered out of 99 without an autograph, what they'll pay for a card numbered out of 99 with an autograph. What about with a single color patch versus a 3-color patch? What are they paying up for just for the brand name of a National Treasures, Flawless, stuff like that? I break all that down and provide quantitative data on that in a video that came out on YouTube today over on the Football Card Quest. But it opens your mind, and this kind of parlays into my football card hobby tip of the week here, and that's just about keeping an open mind. But let's go through. I digress. I want to go through the rest of this release calendar. You see what happens when I don't have Carter with me, guys. I get, you know, I get off on tangents easily when I don't have someone on the other end to keep me in line, to acknowledge the fact that, you know, they understand what I'm talking about. But so yeah, make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys leave us 5-star reviews so we get Carter back in the broadcast booth. It's time for him to come back, right? No. So let's look here. Obsidian base. You can see the designs are very nice. I love these electric etches. I love the RPAs from Obsidian. Almost all their cards are serial numbered. It's a hobby-only product, so there's not a ton of it available out there, right? There's a ton of safety in the scarcity of this. Is, you know, if you look at the breakdown, it's one pack of 7 cards, excuse me, for $500, and you get 4 autographs, 2 parallels or inserts, and 1 base card. $450. That's not terrible. It comes out on June 10th, and then you have, a product that I'm very excited about, and that's the Prism Collegiate Draft Picks for $249.95. And this is a hobby box of 10 cards per pack and 4 packs per box, and you get 4 autographs, 4 silver prism parallels, and 8 prism parallels per box on average. This comes out on June 15th. The reason why I'm so excited about this is because this is going to have our favorite guys from the draft. This is why this has been delayed a little bit, probably similar reasons to the rest of the product, but at the same time, they got to make sure that they are printing the appropriate cards based on the draft capital that has been invested in these players. You know, so the fact that a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson that the Giants reached for in the 2nd round, he's going to definitely be printed in this product a little bit more than a 4th or 5th round player. And typically where I've seen the differentiation is around that 6th round. Around the 5th to 6th round, you see a significant differentiation in either guys being omitted from sets altogether or just being virtually having only 1 or 2 cards in the set, and that's when those guys typically will get released in like the contenders that'll come out probably at this point, you know, like next summer, like you know, or next spring, where 2021 contenders came out this year for the previous season, and until then though, you know, we're really looking at Base Donruss coming out in September of 2022, and Base Mosaic, which this past year was moved back, but in 2020 they were both released in September, the beginning of the season, for the brand new rookies. But even then, a lot of those pictures are photoshopped, but at least you get them in their pro uniform, right? We talk about the delineation between college uniform, pro uniform, but there's that common denominator of scarcity. And especially when you have college pedigree, draft pedigree, Alabama, Ohio State, you get drafted in the 1st, 2nd round. Those are our Garrett Wilsons, our Chris Olaves, you know, guys like Drake London, all these big skill position players drafted in the 1st and 2nd round. They're going to have a lot of draft pedigree. They're going to have a lot of hype, speculation coming into their rookie season. Treylon Burks. They're going to be printed in this product. They're going to have autograph cards in this product. This is going to be one of the premium products out available for them. I think it's a great flip opportunity, guys, because you pull a Kenny Pickett right now. You can look at the sold transaction of Kenny Pickett's Bowman U. We talked about the Bowman University product from 2022 football. That product's being flipped. There's a lot of sales volume I'm seeing right now, guys, for Bowman U product. I mean, guys that I've never even heard of, that Carter probably has heard of, that Brandon's probably heard of, but even the Desmond Ridder base Bowman U chrome refractor auto is selling in auction with 17 bids for $51. And there's a decent chance that he may not even start in 2022 behind Marcus Mariota on the Atlanta Falcons. He's a Mariota clone. If Mariota really plays bad, I could see them putting him in. There's also a chance that he could do bad. He face planted in college whenever he came up against the highest level of competition. But it doesn't change the fact that there's going to be hype and excitement. Atlanta's got a huge fan base, a lot of collectors, investors. They know their team just spent third-round draft capital in Desmond Ridder ahead of Malik Willis and Sam Howell. So it's like, why not invest in it? So you could clearly see that whether they're collectors or investors, they're buying into it. And even guys that don't even come out of college until next year, like Bo Nix, they're investing in him, you know? And I think some of these are very interesting investment candidates. This is going to be one of, if not the only, like premium product of theirs and good card. This Bowman First logo is also very interesting. You can see a guy like Tyler Algier. This is not even an autograph card, but it is numbered out of 25. So you have that scarcity element. The serial number asset that we talk about holds a significant weight as well. This card going for $15. So, you know, things like that are very interesting drivers. I think ultimately, my hobby tip of the week is to have an open mind about products like the collegiate draft picks. I think they're absolutely flippable in the short term. I think you could buy them and then immediately relist them, buy it now format, and let them sit. And I think that you could make some really good money, especially if you get Kenny Pickett or any of these quarterbacks, but certainly skill position players as well. We don't know what the opportunity share is going to be like for Garrett Wilson on the Jets, but it could be up to 30%, man. He could put absolutely, based on his college profile, his college resume, could absolutely walk in and dominate and garner a 30% target share. Same thing with any of these guys, Drake London. Same thing with any of these guys that a lot of draft capital was spent on in the first 1, 2, 3 rounds of the NFL draft. So I'm looking to invest in this product. I'm looking to flip it in September, October. We see that the rookies as one of the biggest breakout candidates in the hobby out of any of the players. And now that skill position players are very much relevant, we see tons of transactions on these guys. And I'll be sharing a few of my 2022 Bowman U guys that I've been targeting in auctions the past few days. And I've been getting a lot of competition, guys. I've lost plenty of auctions. And I was surprised because these are guys like 3rd, 4th rounders, but they went to a good team, good landing spot. And so I was like, heck yeah, I'm all over that, you know. Christian Watson on the Green Bay Packers, or Sky Moore who went to Kansas City, you know. So it's just, there's a lot of possibilities out there. And this Panini Prism Draft Picks product, especially with it having the same design as the 2021 Prism, same exact design, it's going to make it very desirable, very desirable. I think it's one of the undervalued products in the market. And it's scheduled to be released on June 15th. And then right after that, we've got Flawless, man. Flawless, you know, all those cards are going to be numbered out of 25 or less. Gems, actual gems are going to be put into those cards. This is one pack. The hobby box is 1 pack of 10 cards. And you're looking for 6 on-card autographs, 1 or 2 gem cards, and 2 or 3 memorabilia cards per box. This is typically going to be like a $10,000, $15,000, so $20,000 product in 2020. That's scheduled to be released also on the 15th. And then you got Contenders Optic. Contenders Optic is wonderful because it's hobby only. It's just like the Contenders. It's got that same ticket design, but it's on that Optic card stock, that Optic flash stock. It's just like base Donruss is to Donruss Optic. And this is only 1 pack as well. 1 pack of 6 cards. I don't have the price point yet, but if you look at 2020, this is a $1,500 hobby box. And there's no reason that this would go up from 2020 because Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are more demanded collectively than all the 5 first-round rookie quarterbacks from 2021. We're talking Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and Justin Fields. So now you can see Select has been pushed back to June 29th. Select is another major release product scheduled last year, went into retail formats, blasters, hangers, cellos, June 29th. And typically, what we see is about a 2-month time period before this product becomes super readily available in auctions and buy it now formats on eBay. It's because the distribution time cycle of getting that product out, getting it into breakers' hands, getting it into the retail stores for people to buy it and then rip it. And obviously there's a lot of sealed product being moved around on secondary markets. So it takes some time for it to really get those singles, as we call it. And that's what I like to invest in, because some of these sets like Flawless, $15,000 hobby box, heck no, man. You can buy like, a nice used car for that, right? There's a lot you could do with 15 grand, right? So, but if you target singles from that, you look at the singles, you could potentially get a single of a guy that you're high on, like take Javonte Williams, for example. Even with a 50% target share, Denver's backfield last year with Melvin Gordon, he still dominated, right? His broken tackles were insane. And I know they re-signed Melvin Gordon, but he's a total breakout candidate who could absolutely put up some massive highlights. Broncos got the playoff potential. He's a guy you could target a flawless single. Maybe you can get one for $100. Maybe you find it going under the radar in an auction. That's what we call a snipe. You get one of those for $80 to $100. Now you're sitting on a little gold mine. That's kind of how that formula works there. The next set that I want to talk about coming up to be released is the Leaf Ultimate Draft. Again, man, this set focuses on autographs, and that's what's so cool about it. The hobby box is only $125. You get 5 cards, only one pack of 5 cards, but it's all 5 autographs, and they're all cards that are unlicensed. So it's going to be licensed directly with the player through the name, image, and likeness program, just like those Bowman U cards are. So they do have a license with the player, and it is an official player autograph. And we've seen Leaf did Pro Set last year. They did this Leaf Draft Ultimate. They do Leaf Draft Metal. They make some really nice cards and some really scarce cards. And ultimately what it comes down to is having an autograph of this player in a nice card stock, a nice card. These cards will garner value because of the scarcity around these new rookie players. And so absolutely, I'm very tempted to buy a hobby box of this, and we'll absolutely be targeting singles of this. And this is scheduled to be released on June 29th of 2022 collegiate players entering the NFL. And now, last but not least, they moved Optic, which was originally scheduled to be released on June 3rd with Prism and Select. Now this has been moved out to just a release date of to be determined. We don't even have one. So release date of to be determined for $1,000. And this is 20 packs per box of 4 cards. So 80 cards in a box, and you're going to have 1 autograph, 20 rated rookies, 10 parallels, 8 of which are numbered, and 4 inserts per box on average. That's a pretty solid hit rate. Last year we saw Optic really increase the hit rate of their product. This is also a product that goes out in retail stores, blasters, cellos, hanger boxes, mega boxes, that there's going to be abundance of supply in the market for 2020 rookies from last year. So just very interesting to be aware of. We're still very much in a sell window of all these sets that have come out. I'll use an example of a Rookies and Stars. I recently made a nice flip on a Kyle Pitts Rookies and Stars card. I think a lot of that was due to the autograph it had on it. It was numbered out of 25 out of 25. Even though I thought I paid a fair market value for it at $80, I was easily able to flip that for $130. And I had it listed for $150. Probably could have got more, had some watchers on it, but I wanted to go ahead and move that before all this other stuff comes out. And even though it does have the scarcity and stuff, I definitely want to flip that before Atlanta starts kind of tanking for the season, for lack of a better term, right? I mean, we're not expecting a whole lot from Atlanta this year on offensively or defensively, but certainly, we're excited. We're excited about the rookies. We're excited about Kyle Pitts, who's a second-year player, broke 1,000 receiving yards rookie year. I mean, you got to be excited about him because he's going to be a number 1 target on his team. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? So ultimately, we talked about it, but just to summarize, my hobby tip of the week is to have an open mind. Have an open mind about these other players, using that knowledge of the common denominator of scarcity and autographs and serial numbers and 3-color patches. Don't put a lot of stock in the 1-color patch. We already know they're not from any specific game. They're not game worn. If you do find a game worn one, that is absolutely a gem. You want to definitely grab that. And normally the game worn ones are only from mid, early 2000s and further back. They're very difficult to find, right? Sometimes they do release veteran cards of players from back in the day that do have game worn. Those are very interesting. But I think you absolutely need to have an open mind and start looking at your Dynasty rookie rankings and start thinking about investing in some of these 2022 rookies, even if it is Bowman First, Bowman University, and you may be very questionable about it. Target the serial number cards, target the autograph cards, and I think there's a lot of potential there. Because these are guys that are going to go up in anticipation, speculation throughout the summer. And right now, we're coming off the draft so fresh. You got NBA playoffs going on, MLB, other stuff that I think on certain individuals, certain players that we don't have a lot of NFL, if any NFL performance around, you could see their values go up here by August. But right now, they can be had in auction and potentially buy it now formats if you save your searches and are kind of doing your due diligence on the new listings, and flip them in August. Buy them now and flip them in August. So my play of the week is Saquon Barkley on the New York Giants. He's a really interesting one. A lot of people may feel snake bit by him because he has been injured pretty much every year since his rookie year, right? I mean, he only played 13 games in 2019, only 2 games in 2020, the ACL, and then 13 games in 2021. So we've been looking for Saquon to get back to that rookie year status of 1,300 rushing yards and 721 receiving yards, where he's the number 3 overall fantasy points per game running back. He's only 25 years old. We know he's the number 2 overall draft pick from the New York Giants in 2018. Saw a ton of draft pedigree, hype, big market New York. They also crushed the first round of their draft. Getting one of the best, if not the best offensive tackle in the draft from Alabama, of all places, Evan Neal. All right, so it's absolutely a big emphasis to improve the offensive line in New York. They also crushed the draft in terms they got Kayvon Thibodeau, right? And so a lot of people had him prospected as the best defensive edge rusher in the draft. And if you look at the charts around Saquon Barkley right now, they're down. They're down on average. Shout out to David, his little web app here. Love it being able to go and look. And I can look at, for example, Saquon's rookie year 2018. I love the 2018 optic, wonderful rated rookie design. In a PSA 10 format, this card has got up to, you look at last September, August, this card was routinely selling for around 150, 110, $130, $135. And now look how much it's dropped to. If you can snag this card for around $30 to $40, I mean, you could see an auction here on May 8th that went for $32, May 9th for $40. There's absolutely a ton of room for growth for people to get excited about Saquon, as he's one of those guys that can still be a bell cow in the league. However, he's not being drafted like a bell cow in fantasy drafts. And it's because of the injury history. I think a lot of people are nervous. A lot of people are scared. There's also a lot of question marks around the Giants, the other supporting cast members. But now you bring in Evan Neal, strengthen the offensive line. You got new coaching, up and down. Saquon's fired up. Maybe this is finally, and I go back to this, but he doesn't even actually have to play it down. You don't even have to roll that dice. You can buy him now at 40 and then sell him in the preseason as you're heading into week 1 for a massive profit. And I say massive, maybe somebody reaches on this card, you sell it for $100. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Maybe $80 to $100, PSA 10 format. Let's see if we got a Giants. Week 4, we see the Giants are playing the Packers in a London game, 9:30 a.m. but we'll see what their opening week schedule is. But it's going to be relatively easy. So there's a ton of potential there for Saquon Barkley to garner a ton of hype heading in. And then in week 1, he goes off. Well, all of a sudden, now you're looking at solid profit, right? Now you're looking at a solid profit on Saquon Barkley based on the market size, based on the athletic ability, based on what he's capable of in the past, the draft pedigree, the whole 9 yards. He's a guy that I see as absolutely down. Like, look at all these down on his rated rookie, 2% down on his Prism. We're looking at the PSA 10. So you look at back up September of last year, that Prism, based on the hype, man, just hype alone, beginning of the season, like we talked about earlier in this episode, $150, $175. And now that card's down to around 60. There's a transaction January 25 for 39, but even if you can get it now for around 60, I absolutely can see that card going back up to 150 by September. It's a nice little almost triple up. I'm looking for a nice little double to triple up, maybe snipe me some Saquons here in the coming weeks. Not a lot of talk about him, not a lot of hype about him. Some people are pushing him down further in their draft boards. They don't want to mess with his injury history. Plus, we saw him sprain his ankle on what was like a total just... I don't even think he ran into anybody, and he sprained his ankle last year. So, but you can't... this is going to change. Like, once we get closer to the season, I don't think that people... more and more people are going to start going back to what he did in his rookie year. The fact he's only 25 years old and expecting him to get back to that, and the acquisition of Evan Neal is absolutely going to help the Giants. All that new coaching staff, maybe new schemes, new game plans, just to talk about all that with all the media scrutiny on New York, absolutely can see Saquon moving up draft boards, therefore moving up in demand for his rookie cards heading into September. It's been a fun episode with you guys. Solo. Appreciate you guys riding solo with me today. Look forward to having Carter back in the studio with us next week, guys. Be sure to leave us 5-star reviews. Tune in. See you next week. Peace.